Welcome to the AFR Saints channel, where we provide you daily content on your favorite team, the New Orleans Saints. Do us a favor and hit that subscribe button. Be sure to leave your comments below and smash that like button. Who dat? When Dennis Allen was fired, almost immediately the conversation shifts to, okay, well, who's going to be next? Now, Mickey Loomis on the Saints coaches show, Saints Hour is what they call it, was asked about the coaching search. This is number 4, if we could. Here was Mickey Loomis about sort of the timeline.
That's not something that we're going to be real active with right now. There's plenty of time for that when the season ends. Our focus has got to be on our team, our players, our coaches, our staff. And it's, you learn more about who you have and who the people are that you're working with in adversity than you do when things are going well.
I don't, I actually agree with him. I mean, you've still got 9 games to go in the season, right? So you're 2-7. I'm sorry, you got 10. You have 10 games to go. Forgive me. So you're 2-7 right now. So 10 games to go, and you're bye. You've got 11 weeks. I mean, you're not going to start interviewing candidates until after the regular season. So you're not talking about until the beginning of January on that Black Monday when you even have the opportunity to start interviewing candidates whose seasons are over. So I'm okay not having any type of real formal answer about the process or who's next or what are you thinking. I'm certain they'll start doing their due diligence. They'll start vetting names to whatever degree you can. They'll get their list together. They'll talk to agents who might be interested. As you start to set up what those conversations, those interviews would look like at the end of the season when you start moving toward naming your the successor. But I was so interested when I saw this because I get a lot of things into my inbox, as you might imagine. Just when you, maybe you wouldn't know this, but so when you're on air or in the role as a program director, you get bombarded with information all the time and requests for people to be on air. A lot of times it's books or other things like that, but a lot of times it's different news and information aggregation services and whatnot that'll send you stuff. And this one came into my inbox, and it was really interesting because it was betonline.ag put this out, and it was the odds to be the next Saints head coach, the betting odds. And the favorite to be the next Saints head coach at minus 300, meaning you'd have to bet $300 to win 100, is Joe Brady. How about that? After Joe Brady is Ben Johnson, the OC of the Lions, followed by Todd Monken, of course, who had coached at Georgia and is now the OC of the Baltimore Ravens. Aaron Glenn, of the defensive coordinator of the Detroit Lions, former Saints assistant. Mike Vrabel, Wes Phillips, Darren Rizzi, Bobby Slowick, Bill Belichick, Dion, Nick Saban, Brian Kelly, some of the long shots on there. You get odds on almost anyone. But the names at the top of the list, I think, are the ones that are the interesting ones because those are the ones that most people are going to consider when you're talking about who might be in line to be the next head coach. And from my perspective, I am very much interested in a young, offensive-minded coach. Now, listen, we got months to talk about who's going to be next. So I'm not trying to, plant my flag in the ground right now and say this is who it's got to be. I will tell you definitively, I think Ben Johnson is the guy everybody's going to want. Ben Johnson, who's the offensive coordinator of the Lions, had head coaching opportunities last year, passed to stay in Detroit. He's going to be able to pick his spot, which, like Jim Harbaugh did a year ago. Harbaugh every year flirted with the NFL, and he waited for the best opportunity and to go to LA in that organization where you had a franchise quarterback in Justin Herbert and you had a top 5 pick where he was able to get a franchise left tackle. That was a very obvious situation for him to go. Ben Johnson is going to be able to pick the best opportunity, and I don't think that's in New Orleans. With a bad contract on an aging quarterback who's not going to be long for the organization, a an awful cap situation. About the only thing you get in New Orleans is stability from ownership, or I should say patience from ownership. It's not going to be like one of those things in Carolina where you got a wackadoo billionaire owner who's firing dudes 6 games into the season just because he doesn't like the car they drive or something. I mean, I'm being facetious there. But in New Orleans, you're going to get at least an opportunity. Shoot, as patient as they were with Dennis Allen. But there's going to be better opportunities out there for Ben Johnson. Joe Brady would be interesting because he checks those boxes. He's a young, offensive-minded coach. He's been with the Saints organization. Remember, he came to LSU after 2 years with the Saints where he was an offensive assistant. Now, you talk to people around the Saints at that time, and he was like a coffee getter. That's what it wasn't like he was intricately involved. Ed Ogeron hired him because he had done time at Penn State under Joe Moorhead, and he was kind of the one who had maybe was given a little bit of credit for instituting that, like the Taysom Hill package alongside Sean Payton back in that time, because of what they had learned and the system that they had run there at Penn State. And so Ed Ogeron saw him on a whiteboard one day whenever the Saints staff or the LSU coaches went to go learn from the Saints staff. They saw Joe Brady. That's kind of how the story goes. And he offered Joe an opportunity to come be what it was, the passing game coordinator or whatever it was at LSU, and he coached receivers. Well, we know what happened. After that, he went and became an OC at Carolina. Early in his second season as the OC at Carolina, he got fired. He lands at Buffalo as a quarterbacks coach, first time he'd ever coached quarterbacks, and then became the interim offensive coordinator, the full-time offensive coordinator in Buffalo, and he's done a nice job. I don't know that there's enough skins on the walls where I'd say that's the guy I'd want, but he checks the boxes of what I would want. Young, offensive-minded coach. I think preferably I'd rather see someone plucked from the Shanahan-McVay tree. That's why a guy like Ben Johnson or Bobby Slowick, who's now in Houston with C.J. Stroud, that becomes a little more appealing. But there's a lot of people here who would really like the Joe Brady hire because of the affinity and ties to LSU. But I'll continue to go back and say it. I believe Joe Brady gets way more credit for 2019 than he deserves. That wasn't a Joe Brady offense. That was a Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson, Terrace Marshall, Clyde Edwards-Helaire offense. And Steve Ensminger's the guy that called all the plays and worked with the quarterbacks. I mean, Joe Brady worked with the receivers on that team. So while I think he's made a lot of it and probably matured a lot and got better as a coach, he's 35 years old right now, I think he gets way too much credit for what happened at LSU in 2019, more credit than he deserves. Steve Ensminger doesn't get enough credit for 2019. And I don't know that Joe Brady's ready to be a head coach in the NFL. But he does check the boxes of what you like to see or what I would like to see. If you're going from a retread, failed defensive coach, I want a young, offensive-minded coach, sort of in the way of what's working right now and winning right now in the NFL. Maybe just maybe, it'll be Joe Brady. Hey, thanks so much for watching. Please leave your comments. I love to interact, and be sure to hit the red subscribe button below.